One of the worst places in the world to be right now from the standpoint of coronavirus is the U.S. state of Florida. In total, the United States is one of the worst places to be, like if you look at just country level data. But thankfully, for now, some states in the United States are actually doing pretty well. But if you look in more detail at the state by state data, there are some spots in the United States that are the worst places to be. And that includes Arizona, that includes Texas, that includes California. But certainly Florida is one of those places. Florida has 21 million people. That's more than many countries have. If Florida were a country, it would be one of the countries with the worst outbreaks in the world right now in terms of the growth rate of cases. Florida Republican State Rep Anthony Sabatini went on CNN, said Florida's doing just fine. Now I'm going to play some clips for you. He sounds completely delusional. He praised Governor Ron DeSantis' handling of the virus. Ron DeSantis, the Florida Republican governor, is engaged in a battle with Georgia Governor Kemp and Texas Governor Greg Abbott for who has had the absolutely worst response. The outbreak in Miami is being compared to the initial outbreak in Wuhan, China. Dr. Lillian Abbo said, quote, "Miami is now the epicenter of the pandemic. What we were seeing in Wuhan 6 months ago, 5 months ago, now we are there." But Anthony Sabatini doesn't care. Here he is. By the way, Sabatini, I feel like he's doing a disservice to the Sabatini name. Great Argentinian tennis player, Gabby Sabatini, and Anthony Sabatini shows up on CNN and tries to tell Breonna Keeler that everything's fine in Florida. Breonna Keeler tries to bring him back to reality.
Well, Brianna, I think what you're doing is what a lot of folks in the media have done, which is harped exclusively on one metric, namely the cases. Cases. The media is almost exclusively focused on this one number versus the two most important numbers, obviously, hospitalizations and fatalities, where in most parts of the states flatlined or gone down, especially in mine.
So for now, Sabatini is just pushing the talking point. Cases don't really matter. What matters is hospitalizations. What matters is deaths. But remember, the cases are the earliest indicator. First, you test positive. Then you get sick enough to have to go to the hospital. Then some portion of those folks who go to the hospital die. And case in point, cases have been exploding in Florida since around June 26th. That's like 20 days ago. Deaths started to spike a few days ago. Yesterday, again, Florida set a new single-day death record. And then they did it again. I mean, multiple new single-day death records in Florida. So deaths are spiking. Anthony Sabatini is pretending that they're not. But let's continue with the interview, and you're going to hear the state rep from Florida say, Florida's doing fine and DeSantis is doing great.
And so if we focus on the two more relevant metrics, Florida's doing just fine.
Okay, we focus on case positivity, and we just did a report on the metrics that you cited. Perhaps you didn't hear it. But you've had actually in Leon County a circuit judge who said, and look, we checked, Representative, we checked with constitutional experts who said, and this is what the court judge said, and this is what the circuit judge said, and constitutional experts agree with this. The ordinance, because you lost in Leon County, the ordinance has a, quote, valid basis to protect public health because I mean, you talk about this being an extraordinary circumstance, but we are in an extraordinary circumstance. We're in a pandemic, and Florida's not doing just fine.
No, they are. But on the judge issue, there's about 800 circuit court judges in the state of Florida.
You think Florida's doing fine right now?
Absolutely. I think the governor's response has been on point, and I think that the metrics that matter the most, we're doing very well. And if you're counting cases, you're going to scare people. But what they don't realize is cases are
deaths.
Far less.
4,521. Total cases, 301,000.
Last week in Florida,
hospitalizations increasing, 19,334. 54 hospital ICUs have reached capacity in Florida. Another 40 hospitals show that ICUs are at 10% or less availability.
Well, let me remind you,
you say you're doing fine?
We're the nation's third largest state. So out of the 70,000 new cases we had last week, we had about 100 more people go to the hospital. That is a extremely small number when you're looking at the fact that we have 21.5 million people. Certainly not the sort of numbers that would drive people to shut down the economy.
Sir, you're the epicenter of a global pandemic, and you can't even admit that?
That's actually a false assessment entirely. I don't even know what you mean by epicenter.
Notice that this is not about math. We like to think sometimes on the left naively that if we just show them the numbers, everybody's going to get on the same page. Everybody will understand what's going on. Everybody will agree. Just show them the numbers. But it doesn't work. And yesterday we spoke to Dr. Christopher DiCarlo about critical thinking and about data and statistics, and it just doesn't work that way. And part of the reason it doesn't work that way is you have people like Anthony Sabatini and Donald Trump just saying things that aren't based in fact, going around saying Florida's fine. We're not the epicenter. There's nothing to see here. Reality doesn't matter. Now, on top of this, we also have to remember we have much reason to think that we aren't even really getting the true numbers out of Florida. If we go back about a month, 6 weeks, there were already allegations that Florida was covering up or misreporting data. Now, officially, as of 2 days ago, the Trump administration says, stop reporting to the CDC. Instead, report your data to HHS and Alex Azar, Trump tool Alex Azar, who at one point hired a Labradoodle breeder to deal with the day-to-day of coronavirus. That was early on. So even with the numbers we're getting out of Florida, Florida's deaths have hit new single-day records multiple times in the last week. The last week in total has been the worst week for Florida in terms of cases, in terms of deaths. But remember that on the tail end of this, the real data might be even worse. Florida is the epicenter of the global pandemic at this point in time. And part of the reason why is they insist everything's completely fine. It's like the Naked Gun scene with the great comedic actor Leslie Nielsen, where he's saying, please disperse. Nothing to see here. Please disperse. And a building is exploding in the background. Many of you know the scene. It's been the subject of a lot of memeing on the internet. That's essentially what Anthony Sabatini is doing here. And it's absolutely insane, absolutely and utterly insane. I'm going to be talking a lot more about this in the next few weeks, but I want to sort of get us thinking about this. We are now past the point of no return with coronavirus in terms of the timing of the election. Let me explain what I mean by that. It takes somewhere in the range of 8 to 10 weeks to flatten the case curve if you lock down today, right? Which means that if Florida, Arizona, these states that are imploding, if they did a full lockdown today, you would probably not see the effect of that. You wouldn't see the cases come under control until October 1st. But in addition to that, deaths lag by 20 days. So if we saw a lockdown today, you wouldn't really see some of these states get the outbreak under control until late October, okay? So when you know that, when you see 15,000 cases a day in Florida, death records in Florida, the timeline of how the virus works, we saw it in New York, we know how long it takes. It means that there will be a huge coronavirus problem in some of these key states, including Florida, which will be so important for the November election. It's going to be going on in mid-October, in the best case scenario. And that's if states lock down. They don't even seem interested in locking down. What that tells us is Trump can't rely on winning in November because the virus is under control. Just mathematically, it's not going to happen. This means they only have dirty tricks left. And Andy Kroll wrote a really good article in Rolling Stone outlining the techniques that Republicans and Trump are going to use to try to win. One technique is going to be using lawsuits to wreak havoc. In February, the Trump campaign, as Andy Kroll writes, and the Republican National Committee announced they were going to spend $10 million filing voting-related lawsuits in 2020. In Pennsylvania, for example, they sued the state government of Pennsylvania and election boards in every county to ban the use of secure drop boxes for submitting take-home ballots. And they said that poll watchers can only serve in the county where they live, which is a great way to, if you have a county without a highly engaged population, you would want to bring in poll watchers from other counties. That won't be allowed. It's a great way to allow intimidation at the ballot box. They're going to be working to block ballots, including ballots submitted by mail. They're going to be working on intimidating voters. They will be spreading disinformation. They're going to be working to prevent absentee ballot expansions altogether, and we've seen Donald Trump doing that for months already. They're going to use bogus fears of voter fraud to justify whatever they can get away with. So none of these techniques are new. But the point is, they don't have anymore the idea of, hey, you know what? Our strategy will be, we'll do a little voter suppression because we always do it, but we'll also make a case that we have dealt with the virus and we fixed the economy. Trump sort of still continues to claim that he's dealing with the virus well, but the math of it shows a different reality. And the cases are going to be raging for 8 to 10 weeks in the best case scenario in some of these states. So all they have left are the dirty tricks. I'm going to be doing much more extensive coverage of this. And my goal is we all need to be prepared for what they are likely to do. We need to expect what they are going to do. We need to have a plan to fight it. We are going to be talking about how you can get involved as an election monitor. I mean, there are things, depending on state laws, that you can actually do and get involved in. But this has to be our focus now because they're out of actual policy arguments. Trump hasn't even talked about policy in any way for weeks other than saying, we're going to do more of the great stuff in the second term that I did in the first term, even though it didn't really happen in the first term. And in any case, it's the fault of the coronavirus or Democrats or Obama or who Jimmy Carter. I mean, he'll blame anybody, right? All they have left are dirty tricks, and that's why this is so important. Make sure you're following me on Twitter at @dpacman for the latest updates on all of this. We're going to take a quick break, and it's just a beautiful Friday show for you today.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.
The David Pakman Show depends on your support, and the easiest way is through membership, which includes the world-famous bonus show, as well as commercial-free audio and video streams of the show just for members. Sign up today at joinpakman.com. Coupon code saves you 40%. Vote soon 18.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.
Welcome back to the show. Today's new members of the day are Caitlin Hernandez and Aaron Leitz. Caitlin and Aaron, thank you so much for your support. Also, a huge thank you to Leslie Thurman, who has been a member for almost 5 years and is today's longtime sustaining member of the day. Grab a membership, get the daily bonus show, the commercial-free audio and video streams of the show, and just a good feeling deep down inside that you're supporting alternatives to homogenous corporate media. Let's go to the phones at 617-830-4750, starting today with our caller from the 214 area code. Who's calling today from 214?
Hello, David. This is Dave from Dallas. Can
Hey,
you hear me?
Dave. Yeah, I can. What's going on? Now, we're not on speaker, are we?
You know what? You're on my Bluetooth, man. Hang on.
All right.
My bad. Sorry.
What's
Can
on
you
your
hear me
mind,
better
Dave?
now?
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay. Thanks for taking my call.
Pleasure.
A few weeks ago, you were asked an audience question about whether the economy does better under Democrats or Republicans.
Right.
And you mentioned several metrics: stock market, GDP, unemployment. But there's another metric you didn't mention, which is recessions. I was born in 1958, and there have been 11 recessions in my lifetime. One of them started when Jimmy Carter was president. The other 10 all started during Republican administrations. Only one Republican in my lifetime, and remember, I'm 62 years old.
Right.
Only one Republican in my lifetime, Gerald Ford, who served less than 2.5 years, didn't have a recession start while he was president. However, thanks to his Republican predecessor, Richard Nixon, we were already in a recession when he took office. You're under 40. So every Republican in your lifetime has had a number of recessions equal to the number of terms they served.
That's
Seriously, I mean, they literally can't go 4 years without causing a recession. Seriously, how do they maintain this reputation for being better on the economy? Are they just better at branding?
I think so. I mean, yes. So it's all linked to the simplicity of a lot of these ideas. Sort of like, hey, I mean, you know, taxes are your money and you should keep it. And it must be better for the economy if people keep the money they earn. So we're good with the economy, right? It's like simple. It's ideas that are that simple that take hold.
I just don't know how the American people can be that easily fooled. It's just crazy.
Well, we know they can because Trump is president.
Valid point, man. That's what I was wondering, my friend. Thank you very much. Love your show.
All right, Dave from Dallas. Dave from Dallas on fire. Shot out of a cannon there and getting right into his point. I love it. Let's go next to our caller from the 954 area code. Who's calling today from 954?
Hello?
Yeah, who's this?
Hi, this is Justin from I'm calling from Johns Creek, Georgia.
Hey, Justin.
Hi, love your show. I had two questions, so to speak. The first concerning, let's say, best case scenario happens in November. We get when Joe Biden defeats Donald Trump resoundingly. Democrats expand their majority in the House and take back the Senate.
Yeah.
What are there any potential guardrails or anything we can do to prevent Trump and McConnell and the other Republicans from just going off the rails, burning everything down in the 10 or 11 weeks between Election Day and when Biden is inaugurated?
Well, assuming you're not literally meaning starting to burn things down, they can only really do so much. I mean, Trump will probably, let's not put the cart before the horse, but if it gets to that point and Trump has that 2.5-month lame duck period, I think mostly Trump would recede into a shell and blame everybody other than himself for losing if that happens, and might not try to do that much. But the things he would likely do would include pardoning people, executive orders that he believes would either be digs at Obama or Biden or ways to get favors to his friends. But I actually don't think that, the real concern would be, do they try to push more judges through? And that is something that maybe Democrats would be able to prevent on the same basis that Mitch McConnell prevented Merrick Garland from getting to the Supreme Court. I think if Trump loses, he's going to be so distraught, he won't be doing very much during that lame duck period.
I certainly hope so. I mean, we know that he's basically. My hope is that the worst he does is send some petty tweets about how it was rigged or how he was treated unfairly. But it just was also that empty threats.
Yeah, I mean, the problem about the tweets about the problem about tweets about the election being rigged is that as stupid as those would be, they likely would inspire some of his followers to potentially become violent. And that's something that is potentially very problematic. Listen, Justin, I know you had a second question. I'm going to let you go because your connection is not great, and we want to make sure that we can hear everybody beautifully. So I have a lot of people holding I do want to get to. Let me go next to our caller from the 401 area code, maybe our friendly neighbors to the south in Rhode Island. Is that possible? Caller from 401, it sounds like you have us muted, but you are on. All right, last chance for the caller from 401. If you would like to unmute and chat with me. All right, that came and went. Let's go to 480. I believe 480 is Arizona, and given what's going on in Arizona, I would very much want to talk to somebody there. 480, who's this? Where are you calling from?
Yeah, my name's Steve.
Hey, Steve, are you calling from Arizona?
I am. I'm in Phoenix, actually.
What on earth is going on there?
Actually, that kind of had to do with one of my questions. Arizona is actually the rate is starting to fall ever since Ducey reimposed those restrictions. So Arizona has seen a decline over the past week, and I kind of feel bad for Ducey because he gets it from both sides, the right and left, because we got a lot of right-wing nuts in Arizona. But that kind of lends itself to my question to you, and that's I've seen a lot of stuff on Twitter coming from the right about coronaviruses being reported 2, 3, 4 times. They're insinuating that people are going and getting tested and showing up positive, and then they go to another hospital and do it again. Have you seen these claims, and do they hold any water in your opinion?
Well, so why would someone do that? If someone gets a positive test at one hospital, why would they go to another hospital and be tested again?
Right. Well, they're saying they're doing that to increase the rate, to make it seem like there's more coronavirus cases than there actually are.
And
this is all over Twitter.
I got you, but so hold on, Steve. When you say they, individuals are saying, I'm going to increase the rate by driving around and getting multiple tests, or someone is coordinating individuals who, once they find out, here's someone with the virus, let's call them and tell them to keep getting tests at different hospitals? Who is the they that is doing it?
Yeah, Andy Biggs is he's one of our representatives. He's spreading this information. Kelly Townsend, just Republican Arizona lawmakers that have no idea what's going on, so they spread this disinformation.
Right, but my question is, who is coordinating? Whose idea is it to get a person who's sick to take multiple tests? Is it the person who's sick, or is there some person on the left who is finding infected people and suggesting to them that they go get more tests? Who's doing it?
That's a good question.
They haven't said.
It could be Santa Claus, because to me it's all bull crap.
Yeah, no, listen, I mean, that's patently absurd. And, but by the way, it's not clear that the numbers really are reversing in Arizona. There was a decline over the weekend, but that's typical that over the weekend you see fewer cases. The numbers from yesterday are absolutely brutal. And I think already today, as we are speaking, Arizona has again reported 100 deaths. Like, it's actually, I don't think Arizona has turned anything around yet. But yeah, I mean, listen, the more focus that there is on conspiracy theories, like sick people are driving around getting multiple tests, the worse it's going to get, because that's not really going to deal with the virus.
No, I know. I had one more question for you, David, if you don't mind.
Sure.
So Trump has signed a lot of executive orders during his tenure.
Yep.
Most notably the Paris Accord. And my question to you is, if Joe Biden were to get elected, would he be able to just kind of reverse course on all that and kind of undo what Trump did? And do you think he will?
There's a lot that can be in the same way that it was done. But remember that a lot of the things Obama did, Trump undid by executive order. A lot of the things Trump did by executive order can be undone by the next president. And this is, a lot of times the debate about executive orders is whether it's an overreach of power or when should or shouldn't an executive order be. The other very practical reality is that a whole bunch of Trump's executive orders don't actually do anything, and they're just a waste of time in the sense that it's an executive order notifying mayors that they should prioritize, X, Y, Z. It doesn't really do anything. The ones that do something can also very much be undone by the next president. This is why we really need to, this is part of our broken system, that it's a lot of just undoing what the previous person did, and it's a big waste of time for everybody.
So you don't think him going back into the Paris Accord will have much of an effect?
Oh, no. I'm saying you're saying if Biden comes in and says we're back in the Paris Climate Accord.
Right.
Oh, no, that would be a very good thing. What I'm saying is it can be easily changed by the next president, which I thought was your main question. Yeah, Biden can change that decision immediately.
Okay, that was my main concern. That was probably the one thing that Trump's done that has upset me the most. Was the Paris Accord. But hey, man, I really appreciate you taking my call. I try calling all the time. I never get through. So
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you for continuing to try, and great to talk to you. And I hope to hear from you again as well. Let's go next to, let's go to the caller from last week from the 413, our old home area code, who had such a bad connection that we couldn't hear him. I didn't even get your name. I thought you said Deshaun, but I'm not even sure if I got that right.
Hey, David, can you hear me now?
Yes. What was your name?
Ishan. I'm calling from Waltham, Massachusetts.
Ishan. Okay. I had you as Deshaun. All right. Ishan. I've got that corrected. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah, I got you as Amherst. So I have two questions for you, both related to immigration. So did you hear about the Trump administration making new policies about kicking out 1 million foreigners, students, F1 visa students out of the United States in the name of coronavirus and in the name of INA? And then yesterday they rescinded those policies after the major lashback and political blow by MIT Harvard lawsuit and top tech giants and 18 states, 18 states sued him.
Yes, that is correct. I did hear about that. That did happen.
Yeah. So my first question is, I read on Quora, there are some speculations. People are saying that Trump basically did that because he was worried about the MIT lawsuit, and he might just, since the exemptions granted on March 13th say that the exemptions are going to continue as long as we're in the state of national emergency, Trump might just say that the pandemic is over and the national emergency is over, immediately revoking all those exemptions and putting all those 1 million students in a state of like chaos and hysteria and forcing them to be out of the country in the middle of the semester. Do you see that as a possibility? Can you do that?
It's certainly a possibility. I think at this point, anybody who is putting out a theory that Trump is thinking 2 or 3 steps ahead, you're probably mistaken, because Trump has not shown an ability to think 2 or 3 steps ahead. I don't believe this is a super high priority for Donald Trump. I think it's as simple as there was blowback, so he changed his mind about kicking out the students. I don't think he's thought about it beyond that.
Great. Okay. Yes, that makes sense. Yeah. Also, because it's not just MIT, Harvard. It was like 18 states. His own people were suing him. So I don't think he could do anything about it. And then it's like $42 billion coming in every year. Right. So my second question is about what you said, I guess, 1 or 2 months back. You basically told us about 2 types of reform which happened. One is burn the system down to the bottom and then build it up back again. And the second one you told about is wasn't make changes as you are in the system without having any kind of wars and clashes and stuff like that. So my question is, regardless of what happens to international students, regardless of what happens to H-1B holders, regardless of what happens to green card holders, it's pretty evident from all of his executive orders and even this policy fiasco and everything that internationals are not welcome in the United States. So regardless of whatever happens, so the message is clear. His xenophobic agendas are being promoted every day. So that I'm assuming that means that people are not gonna see U.S. in future as their dream destination. Those $42 billion might reduce to, I guess, 20 billion next year, the next year 10 billion, and then so forth. And then the H-1B holders, which some people claim abuse the system, which is not so true because not all of them do that. We have some.
Hey, Ishan, I'm sorry. Ishan, I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm struggling to follow everything you're saying. Is there a question in there for you? You said you had a second question.
Yeah, it's a question. I'm sorry for making it so long. My bad. So my question is, if Biden gets elected, will he do anything to work with the Congress about a major immigration reform, converting it more towards a merit-based approach as in Canada and Australia, or is it just a promise he is making right now? I mean, he's not very open about it, but it does say in his website that he's going to closely work with Congress.
I believe that is Joe Biden's intention. As you know, every presidential candidate has a long list of things that they say they would like to do. Only a fraction of them get done. So yes, I believe that this is something Joe Biden wants to do, and we will see if he does it. Ishan, out of curiosity, what kind of phone are you using? What are you on? Some kind of special device or speaker, or no. I'm on the iPhone right now. Normally using it. I guess it's probably because of the cars. Very good.
Going outside.
All right, Ishan, thank you. I'm so glad I was able to hear your questions this time around. We're going to take a quick break. If you're holding, don't hang up. We'll be right back after this.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.
The David Pakman Show depends on the support of our viewers and listeners, and one way to keep us going is through Patreon, where you can pledge as little as $1 per month or as much as you want at patreon.com/David Pakman Show. Great perks and benefits as well. Read about them.
Welcome back to the David Pakman Show.
Let's get back to the phones at 617-830-4750. You know who has not called in For 10 months. It's been 10 months since we caught him live. It's furious Trumpist Jimmy from Philly. Let's see what's going on with Jimmy. Jimmy, it was September 24th the last time you called in. Are you in a welding facility?
David?
Yeah.
David, hold
Yeah.
on. I got to shut the mower off. What's up, David?
Hey, Jimmy, please don't scream into the phone. It's
Dave.
very unpleasant.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm around a lot of noise. Let me get away from
Yeah, please. I like that nice, quiet, calm Jimmy voice. The quieter, the better.
Yeah. Yeah, the one you never hear.
Right.
So David, I really don't have a question. I have a statement.
Okay.
One, this whole coronavirus thing is concocted by the Chinese and the Democrats to get rid of Trump.
Okay.
And two, Black Lives Matter is a joke. They're based on, if you read the website, they're based on Trayvon Martin, the guy who attacked an armed man and lost.
Jimmy, I want to hear. I don't want to.
Michael
Jimmy, hold
Brown.
on a second. I don't want to miss a second of what you're saying. You're so loud. You've got to move the phone like a foot from
Okay.
your mouth.
All right,
Okay,
all right.
you've got to move it back, like literally
I
move it
apologize,
12 inches
David.
away.
It's kind of hard. I apologize, though.
Yeah.
I work around machinery and I get loud, too.
So Black Lives Matter, you don't like.
No, well, I don't like them because they're based on a lie.
Okay, what lie is that?
Trayvon Martin attacked an armed man and lost. And Michael Brown went for a cop's gun and lost that one, too.
And so this
Obama's DOJ
this relates to what
investigated
now?
both of them, Dave. What's
Jimmy,
that?
what are you talking? I don't know what you're talking about. So you don't like Black Lives Matter?
No, I think it's a big lie. I think anybody who demonstrates some kind of racial pride is just showing their stupidity.
Oh,
I mean,
so
I'm
like
not proud
what?
to be white. I'm not,
Okay, all right. And is
I have
Black
no
Lives?
choice
Hold on a
in the
second, but
matter.
Jimmy, is Black Lives Matter a racial pride group or is it a racial equality?
Yeah, I
group?
would say so. Yes, I would say so. I would say
Okay.
they bring their children to protest, David. How stupid is that? Why would you bring a child to something that could foment violence?
I
Why
saw a
would you do
bunch.
that?
I saw a bunch of kids with no masks at the anti-mask, anti-lockdown protests too.
Yeah, well, it's funny how people can't go to church, and I'm an atheist, but Black Lives Matter can be out there protesting. Yeah.
No, but hold on a second, Jimmy, because now you're saying something different. You said Black Lives Matter is bad because you saw kids at the protests, but what about the kids at the anti-mask protests? Are you worried about that?
No.
You're not. And why
Because
not?
that doesn't. Look, David. Nobody's happy when they see Black Lives Matter come down the street. Okay, you don't get a warm, fuzzy feeling. When
Did you
see
get
or hear about Black
did
Lives
you get a
Matter.
warm, fuzzy feeling from the armed anti-mask protesters intimidating law enforcement?
I think they're idiots too, David.
Sorry, what?
I don't see why they got to be armed. Why not just not wear the mask? But you know what, David? They have the right to be armed.
Okay,
I mean-
but so did you get it? But the question was, did you get a warm, fuzzy feeling from it?
No, absolutely not.
You didn't. Okay.
I wouldn't have been out there. I wouldn't have wasted my time like that. But,
Jimmy, are you on?
like,
Are you on a riding mower right now?
No, I was. I stopped it in the middle of the lawn. They're all looking at me, pissed off.
Okay. Wow.
I had to walk away from them.
All right,
No,
Jimmy.
it's
Very
not.
good. Well, it sounds like everything. Are you off alcohol and on LSD still, or?
Yeah. I actually stopped drinking tremendously. I got to drink a beer now. I can't even finish.
Yeah,
Ridiculous.
that is
Some nights,
really
no,
cool.
but.
Yep.
But when are you going to start take me off shadow ban, David?
Sorry, shadow band.
Yeah.
What does that even
Tell your
mean?
moderators to take me off shadow ban. What was one of them gay when I made the gay joke about the politician?
All right, Jimmy, we're going to let him go. When Jimmy starts going homophobic, we do let him go. Let's see who, and what a connection, huh? Let's go to our caller from the 508 area code, maybe a caller from the Boston area, caller from 508. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hello, David.
Yes.
This is Toby from Massachusetts.
Toby, how are you?
I'm doing good. My question to you is, do you think Republicans will be on board with abolishing the Electoral College if they lose an election? If they win the popular vote but lose the Electoral College?
Well, so two answers to that. First is, Yeah, probably. They'll probably very quickly change their mind if the Electoral College ends up hurting them. So Republicans benefit from the Electoral College. We have a number of cases, including in 2016, where the Republican candidate lost the popular vote but won electorally. And that's part of why Republicans defend it. But it's extremely unlikely to happen. That's the reality. And the many Republican presidents have only won because of the Electoral College. And I mean, listen, this November is an example. Trump's not going to win the popular vote. The question is, does he eke out an electoral victory? So I just don't think we're going to see that anytime soon. I mean, maybe, you know, in 4 or 8 years, but certainly this year, Biden, if I were a betting man, I would bet on Biden winning the popular vote. I don't know who's going to win electorally.
Yeah, because that's something I've been thinking about. I've been thinking about the national popular vote interstate compact, and I've been hoping that is something that gets through in the near future, even if it's not likely, because the Electoral College is such a broken system.
Yes. Yeah. So for people who don't know, the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact, what that is essentially states who say, instead of awarding our electoral votes to whoever wins our state, we'll award them to whoever wins the national popular vote. If you get enough states together to do that, such that the total of their electoral votes is 270, which is the number required for the presidency, you've effectively made a national popular vote. The legal question around it is whether some states are not allowed to do that. And that's an issue that's come up recently by state constitutional law. And obviously, you know, I'm not a lawyer. My formal training is in podiatry, so I would not be able to answer that. Okay, I guess we lost Toby there. Toby had enough with me, and Toby hung up. Let's go next to, let's try the 774 area code, sticking again potentially with Massachusetts. Who's calling today from 774?
Hi, is this me?
Yes, it is.
Hi, David. I'm Trevor from Worcester.
Trevor, what's going on?
So I just wanted to ask you about Biden's environmental plan.
Yeah.
He put a bunch of different cool, not cool, but very progressive pieces into his policy, like establishing the environmental and climate division in the DOJ and overhauling the EPA External Civil Rights Compliance Office and creating a national crisis strategy and all that stuff. But what did Biden, in your opinion, leave out of his plan that maybe the progressives in his unity group wanted into the plan that he left out?
You know, you'd have to ask them. I've only looked at a bulleted summary so far. I've not read through all of it, but certainly the Biden plan is not the Green New Deal. The Biden plan is, you know, what I found good about the Biden plan in terms of the summaries that I've read is that he's doing what he promised to do. In other words, months ago, Joe Biden said, I support the Green New Deal as a framework with which I will build a plan and will listen to what the Green New Deal says and consider other voices. And a lot of people said, I don't believe it. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. And the Biden plan integrates some of the milestones and guidelines of the Green New Deal into a plan that, to be clear, is not the Green New Deal. But what I'm pleased by is that, first of all, I mean, listen, again, Biden is not an ultra progressive. If Biden gets to do what he's proposing, it will be the most progressive environmental plan in the history of the United States. Now, you're going to have people who come out and say he'll never get it done. Well, that's not unique to Biden. No president gets everything done that they say they want to do. You'll hear people come out and say Biden doesn't really believe this stuff. He's only saying it because he thinks it will help him politically. You can say that about any candidate, and to some degree, it's always true. But the idea that Biden is particularly dishonest about what he wants, I've seen no evidence for. So listen, if I do a full review, I could come back to you and say, here's the 5 things that aren't in it that should be. But overall, I like that Biden has stuck to his word of using the Green New Deal as a framework for putting together a plan. I'm pleased with it. Hello? Trevor from...
I'm sorry. I missed that last part. I'm sorry.
I'm pleased overall that Joe Biden has stuck to his word and used the Green New Deal as a framework for his plan.
Yeah, I agree completely that the Green New Deal is a great framework. It should be what we have, but it's definitely a great alternative. My second question, really quickly, would be that do we need the Electoral College in order to implement ranked choice voting into our voting system? Do we need the Electoral College should we get rid of it in order to implement ranked choice voting?
You can do ranked choice voting.
To calculate the popular
it's
vote?
really two separate things. I mean, listen, if you go to national popular vote, you eliminate electors per state, and you can tally the national popular vote as first past the post or ranked choice voting, single transferable vote, etc. That'd be one path. The other path is you keep the Electoral College, but at the individual state level, the elections are held using a ranked choice or alternative voting system. So a lot of people talk about doing both together. Obviously, it's incredibly unlikely that you're going to get both together nationally at the exact same time, but they don't have to both be done together.
Okay. Awesome. Thanks for answering my questions.
All right, Trevor, thank you so much for the phone call. I very much appreciate it. Let me go next to our caller from the 203 area code. Who's calling today from 203?
Hello, David. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Who is this?
So I am Joe Harris. I'm from Connecticut, which is
Beautiful.
in Massachusetts. But as only you would know, being from Massachusetts, it's next to Massachusetts. No one else knows where it is.
Connecticut's a great place. It's a great place where a lot of people who work in New York City live, in fact.
Yeah, yes, that's why COVID was a little scary. But now I'm out in Pittsburgh, so less scary. But anyway, my big question was, as someone who's a younger person, I'm not exactly excited about Joe Biden, but seeing him as president would obviously be better than Trump.
Right.
On these down ballot races in the Senate, do you think there's any way the Democrats could take the Senate? I see like Susan Collins, Maine, maybe that seat in Montana and Arizona. I think it's Mark Kelly or something in Arizona.
Yep.
But do you think there's any way we can push 50-51, or is that unlikely?
Oh, no. I mean, listen, it's an up. If you said to me, it's a even money bet, who do I bet keeps control? I probably bet on Republicans, but there's a very clear path for Democrats. And it does include, as you mentioned, Mark Kelly in Arizona. You've got Cory Gardner, who is potentially facing defeat in Colorado to Hickenlooper. In fact, it looks like Hickenlooper is going to win. We had some polling from Montana that says Steve Bullock could win there. I'm not going to remember all of them. North Carolina, you've also got Maine, as you mentioned. So, yeah, I've outlined a path that it's not overwhelmingly likely, but it's certainly feasible for Democrats to take control of the Senate. And, when I see a poll that says Texas is tied between Trump and Biden, that's the type of shift that would likely go along with Democrats taking control of the Senate. But all we can do is get out and vote, and we've got to make sure that we do that.
Okay, yeah, because I have like the deepest level of disdain for Mitch McConnell. Like Trump sucked, and Trump's evil.
Amy McGrath and Mitch McConnell is another example.
Exactly. Even like Lindsey Graham in South Carolina. Like I have such deep disdain. He's like destroying our country on purpose. And I like hate that guy so much that if he lost that power, it would be huge for us.
It would be absolutely. Yeah. So don't forget, that's a good one. Lindsey Graham has an opponent in South Carolina. I believe Jamie Harrison, even though certainly it's an uphill battle.
Or something.
There's a lot of races here that we should be looking at. No question about it. Fight every single one of them. And it would be amazing to take control of the Senate. And because, listen, if Biden wins in November and the Senate control remains with Republicans, that dramatically limits how much Biden can get done in terms of major legislation.
Exactly.
Hopefully he can still use executive orders to reverse a lot of the atrocities Trump has done, but you're going to struggle to get big legislation done. And that's why taking the Senate would be just fantastic.
Well, yeah, and then we can just push and just roll over the Republicans.
Absolutely.
I mean,
and as
that's
I've said before,
tax cut.
The other reason progressives should really want to take the Senate is that we want, I don't want to put the cart before the horse. I've probably said that a dozen times this week. If Joe Biden becomes president, we want to be best positioned to force Biden to be as progressive as possible. If there's a Republican Senate, it's unlikely Biden is going to be tested with any seriously progressive bills. If the Republicans lose the Senate, Democrats in the House and Senate will potentially pass some pretty progressive stuff. The Senate is not super progressive. Even the Democrats in the Senate are not the most progressive people.
Yeah,
but we can put stuff on Biden's desk where it's like, is he going to veto that stuff? That's the ideal scenario where we can force some stuff onto Biden's desk.
No, yeah, exactly. That was my big question. I'm like a huge fan of yours. Like,
thank you.
All the videos. You're awesome. You're smart. You make great points. So I just wanted to call in and give you kind of what I'm thinking about. So thank you for your time, man.
I'm glad you called. Very much appreciate it. That is going to do it for calls today. We're going to go to a break, but I do plan on taking calls again in the future if you were unable to get on today.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.
Whether you're looking for David Pakman Show coffee for your Chemex or French press or a David Pakman Show t-shirt, it's all available on our website, shipping to anywhere in the world at davidpakman.com/gear. Don't miss the bumper stickers too. davidpakman.com/gear.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.
Okay, let's get into audience questions this week, and there are some good ones. Many of you probably saw the letter published in Harper's Magazine, signed by more than 150 people, criticizing call-out culture and cancel culture as it has become known to many. And I got a bunch of questions essentially saying, can we cancel or ban cancel culture, maybe by making political beliefs a protected class, much like nationality or religion, etc. I mean, listen, I think that that's very, very dangerous to do. And there's a couple different reasons why. If you look at religious beliefs being considered a protected class, that's already problematic. Now, I understand the basis for, if you need to establish in all aspects of the law non-discrimination on the basis of religion or lack of religion, then it follows that you probably have to include religious beliefs as a protected class. But understand that religious beliefs are self-professed. In other words, they're not immutable. Saying that you can't discriminate on the basis of race or national origin as examples, or disability, one has no control over those characteristics, whereas you very much have control over your religious beliefs. And of course, there's the reality that, people are born into religion in many ways, but it is different. But the point is, to add something like political belief as a protected class would create absolute and complete chaos. White supremacy as a value set would be protected. Business can't fire someone or say they won't serve a customer who comes in wearing a KKK hood because those are political beliefs. And if you make political beliefs protected under the law, all of a sudden you are forced to do business with individuals in these categories. And the reality is that it's BS in the sense that it runs directly counter to everything that Republicans claim to want. It runs directly counter to the idea of small government. Wait a second. You think, many of them think, that non-discrimination laws are already too strict, but they want to add political beliefs to that list? Many of them believe that businesses are already over-regulated. You want to add another element where businesses are not free to decide how they're going to operate their businesses? It is a disastrous idea. And at its core, I mean, listen, we can have a reasonable debate, and I'm glad to engage in it, about what are productive and unproductive examples of boycotting or calling for boycotts. That's a great conversation to have. And there's no one answer to it. And sometimes a boycott or a call for a cancellation makes sense, and sometimes it doesn't. Let's figure that out. But the people who are talking about ban the epidemic of cancel culture, they don't like that speech has consequences and that there are new tools for people to voice their displeasure, like, for example, social media. There's really no way to end cancel culture without curtailing speech rights. Something being a right, the right to speak, doesn't mean that it must be free of ramifications. And the consequences to speech are speech in and of themselves. So no, political ideology should not be a protected class. In fact, it might make the problem worse. Imagine an employee says something absolutely insane and horrifying, and a company can't fire them because it's their legally protected political belief. Now the company has to keep an employee on who regularly makes anti-Semitic or racist comments. They can't fire them because those are merely political beliefs. This is literally the free market we're talking about here, right? Businesses are driven by customer wants and desires. If one customer says, I don't want to do business with you if you have a white supremacist, maybe you ignore it. If you have a white supremacist working for you. If 100,000 people say it, then maybe you evaluate that in the market and decide I'd better get rid of this employee. Of course, assuming that there's not a contract that keeps the employee in place, or if it does, you have to look at whether the contract has any kind of clause in it about unbecoming behavior, right? We have a system for this stuff, and simply saying political beliefs are protected as if they were race or national origin or disability, not a good idea, and I would be against it. Next question. David, I see that Joe Biden is doing really well in the polls. What is the point of no return for Donald Trump's polling? So let me first give you the, for practical purposes, answer. Imagine there is no point of no return. Even if Trump is losing by 20 on November 2nd, you go out and you vote on November 3rd because you just don't know what's going to happen in your state. We all have to vote, etc. Now, I believe that if on October 1st, about a month before the election, the numbers are what they are today, I believe it's over for Donald Trump, short of a true miracle. We're not talking, think back to 2016. 2016, heading into election, into the election day, the national polling was Hillary is up by 3.2 and Hillary won by 2.1 in the national popular vote. Of course, because of 77,000 votes in 3 states, electorally, she ultimately lost. We're talking about, an 8 to 9 point lead for Joe Biden right now. And if those are the numbers going into the election, Joe Biden is going to win. Now, what could change this? Listen, if Joe Biden's indicted between now and November, if Joe Biden dies between now and November, if Trump personally cures cancer on Halloween, right? These are the types of things where if on October 1st, Biden's up 8.5, that's what you need to turn it around. William Barr and Mitch McConnell could try to pull something underhanded, maybe some kind of BS investigation into Joe or Hunter or Biden. Maybe it would have an impact. Honestly, at this point, I don't even know that would make a difference. A lot of people would not take it seriously. Trump's retweeting Chuck Woolery while attacking Anthony Fauci on the issue of coronavirus. It's clear that Trump has lost credibility with a large swath of the American electorate. Each day that Trump doesn't take the lead in the polling, it's a day he loses to turn it around. And, I've been getting emails about, should Joe Biden even bother to debate Trump? The idea now being Trump's doing so much self-inflicted damage. Why would Joe Biden even come out and debate? Now, of course, your view on that depends on how well you think Joe Biden would do. I hope they debate. I look forward to watching the debates. But I do think there's a question there. Like, is it just let Trump continue to self-destruct? Maybe debating him doesn't even really make sense. Although, again, if Trump is willing and Biden is not, it would look bad for Joe Biden. The other difference I think that's important in terms of looking at the polling in 2016 and looking at the polling today is that in 2016, Donald Trump was running on being the anti-Washington, D.C. guy. He was riding a wave of anti-establishment sentiment, which may have helped him as Hillary Clinton was dogged by the James Comey press conference, etc. Trump is the establishment right now, so that is not going to work. And in terms of looking at why Trump isn't doing well in the polls, the leading drag factors for Trump are coronavirus handling, economy, racial issues as connected to the George Floyd protests. Could those change between now and November? Yeah, theoretically. I mean, coronavirus could be gotten more under control. Right now, it's as out of control as it's been. If that were to happen, the economy could start to turn around. 3.5 months is not that long, and we've already been in coronavirus mode for about 5 months. So how likely that is a question mark, but I would see the point of no return as sometime around October 1st, barring something earth-shattering, like an indictment of Joe Biden, or again, as I said, Trump personally cures cancer or develops a coronavirus vaccine. Third question that came in this week: how likely is it that any president is really going to pack the court and add seats to the Supreme Court? So this is an interesting question, because this is often mentioned when anytime we talk about the Supreme Court. Invariably, the question comes up about, if Mitch McConnell is going to hold the seat for a year, so Barack Obama can't put in Merrick Garland and Donald Trump gets to put in Neil Gorsuch. Next time there's a Democratic president, that person, he or she, should just add seats to the Supreme Court, because you can do that. And that way, if it ends up being 7-2, you just add a bunch of justices and all of a sudden you've got a left-leaning majority. I think that the risk of doing it, and the reason it's not been done recently, is that if a Democratic president were to add seats to the Supreme Court, and for example, Republicans still control the Senate, Republicans can hold up the confirmations of all of the lower court appointees. Most cases never make it to the Supreme Court, and the lower court judges are extremely important. And you could potentially fuel, number one, Republicans just obstructing every single one of your actual selections. And number two, every time we have a new president, they're going to add seats to the Supreme Court. I just don't know that that's the right way to go. There's things that need to be changed. For example, there should not have been a mechanism for Mitch McConnell to hold the seat open that could have been filled by Merrick Garland, filled with Merrick Garland by Barack Obama for a year. It just shouldn't be allowed to do that. There should be, some process, and you can think of 10 different ways that it could be done where that's not possible. We could potentially be looking at ending lifetime appointments for Supreme Court justices. Now, I know that there are good arguments on both sides. One of them being, if a Supreme Court justice is to be truly independent, they must not have on their minds, even subconsciously, the possibility that they may work in an industry after they are out of the Supreme Court where they are adjudicating a case. And that may be a factor in how I get that. But there's probably ways to deal with that, which would solve the issue of lifetime appointments, where you're essentially waiting for people to die or to be so elderly that they can't do the job anymore. And the timing of, it's a very ugly system in a sense. So I don't, I know that it's discussed quite a bit. I don't expect Donald Trump to pack the Supreme Court if he wins a second term. I don't expect Joe Biden to add Supreme Court justices if he were to defeat Donald Trump in November. It's a fraught and complicated issue that requires more exploration, but I do think there are other changes that should be made to the Supreme Court that would not necessarily lead to this just persistent race to the bottom or race to the top, where every time you get a new president, they say, let's add 2 and I'll select them. And of course, again, if you don't have control of the Senate, the other party could block your selections to those new seats as well. So complicated issue. I would love to hear your thoughts on it. We will have a fantastic bonus show for you today. If you've not yet had the pleasure of watching or listening to the award-winning bonus show, grab a membership at joinpacman.com.